Would you catch them all? Because I'd catch them all. Hard.
He puts the potion on his skin, or else he gets the wand again.
Hello and welcome to this year's Halloween episode, as we're calling it, of Triangle Squared, a PlayStation podcast. First and foremost, if you're new to the podcast, you came in on one of the weirdest times to do so, but welcome. Couple things to get out of the way. First and foremost, welcome. We hope that you have a good time and enjoy your time around here. And a piece of cleanup news, or, kind of an announcement for the show. Chris and I are talking right now, but it sounds like we're going to skip next week because Halloween's on a Tuesday. I have family things I've already planned to do with my family. And it sounds like we might do it Wednesday, but honestly, I think there's not a lot happening. It's Halloween. Let everybody have time with their family. Take a week off. Have a good time. But we're going to get going into an episode of a relatively slow news week. There's some things that have happened that are worth talking about, some layoffs that have been continuing to sweep across every aspect of the entertainment and tech industries, or at least the tech industries, and has bled into the entertainment side of the tech industries. A little bit happening in terms of Spider-Man 2's massive success, and some questions that we have from y'all, as well as checking in on how everybody's liking Spider-Man 2. But without further ado, the way we always start this show off is to remind Chris that he puts the potion in the basket. So Chris,
Hi.
What potions have you been putting in said baskets this week?
There's a love potion, an eternal toxic fire, Felix Felicis I have in the basket. Yeah. Can't use that during sporting events, but it's okay.
I mean, that's fair, right?
Yeah, you wouldn't want to cheat.
I mean, steroids are okay.
Oh, absolutely. That makes the game more fun.
We want
luck?
We want our guys, Mark McGuire, hitting them out of the field. You know what I mean? That's what we want. But
you said a bunch of words that were so close to being right.
I know it. I was like, who's the guy?
Mark McGuire was right, and then you said field, and I was like, oh, God.
Oh, park. There we go.
At least you didn't
Park.
say points. That's okay.
Yeah, you can tell which one of us enjoys the baseball. But Chris,
Yes.
Jokes aside, we talk about what games we've been playing, and of course the big game of the week is Spider-Man 2. So before we get into Spider-Man 2, is there anything else that you've been playing? And then we'll talk about the Spider-Man of it all, along with the community.
A little bit of Honkai Star Rail, and then I feel like I've played other things, but I've just been consumed by symbiotes at this point. So.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to remember. So Honkai for sure, a little bit of Marvel Snap as always, for a little pop of color, and then that's it.
As one does, yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Are you still liking Honkai pretty well?
Yeah, if Honkai is really fun. I have to be honest, I don't understand why I like that game.
That's weird. Is it free to play like the Genshin was?
Yeah, it's a gacha game for sure.
Yeah, I figured. But I haven't really interacted with any of them, so I'm not entirely, I know the concept, but I've actually not played them to understand how it works, that part of it in.
As far
I'm
as
assuming it's based off of what characters you have access to.
Yeah, which is the one thing I've found weird. I'm not crazy far, but it seems like the story like there's one character I just met who I happened to get in a role. So, like, the character I just met 5 minutes ago has been on my team for, like, the past 5 hours of gameplay. And then they get into the game, and I'm literally walking around as this character. They're like, oh, nice to meet you. I'm like, you're the chick with the cool guitar electricity attack. We've met.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem with that type of game, though, because it's like, if you want to tell a story within that type of world, it's really complicated because things are going to happen at different times. And a lot of games face that. So is the game kind of like, for lack of better touchstone for me, Blizzard had a game out years ago that was a MOBA called Heroes of the Storm. And they rotated characters out, and you'd buy the characters and that would change which access. And each week, I think the free one rotated so that you could try them all before you decided to buy them. Is it sort of like that? Where it's free to play, but you have to pay for character access for the ones that you want, but you occasionally get a free one due to random things?
So far...
Or is there more to it?
So far, the way it feels to me is more akin to Persona 5 Royal, except if you had to roll for your personas.
Okay.
Like that's the gameplay. Like it's a JRPG ass game. But then
it's turn-based, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
and the one thing I like about it is I can just kind of be like, I don't want to do this battle, and then just fast forward and auto attack. It's that I really enjoy.
Hold on, Chris.
Yeah.
If I recall, there's a JRPG that you had very big concerns with and gripes with because the game let you auto attack.
No, I think you're very specifically missing a small bit of context that would make my complaints. That I didn't think playing that game was fun.
You weren't playing it.
Well, that was the point I was making, is I turned those on because I wasn't having fun, because I needed to see the story for the spoilers.
Fair enough, Chris.
You know what, Brett? I'll go back. I'll play it again. I need to get the platinum, so I'll go back.
I forgot you didn't go for platinum.
No. I turned off after like the 18th ending or whatever. I did all the endings. Like I did everything.
Proud of you.
I've seen it.
There's 5 endings.
I seen it.
You seen it.
I did seen it.
Well, Chris, the one thing that I needed you to take away from the game, and that I would probably swing on you if you didn't agree, is that the music is an absolute bop in that game. So it's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've come to a consensus in one of the most important areas of the game. And so continue. Honkai's pretty good.
Honkai's pretty good, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so
I've got Lies of P on my side. Still played more of that. Made some good progress. I rode the cable cart up for anybody who's playing, to give you some context as to where I'm at. I'm not super far, but I'm really explorative in those games, which I think is why games like I think it's why the idea of a game being open like Elden Ring was kind of like, well, I already feel like I get a lot of exploration out of those games anyway, because I know that there's a version of Lies of P that you can play and beat probably really quickly if you know where you're going, you know what to do, and you're not exploring, but exploring is fun. So it's like, that's what I like about those games, and you add a lot of playtime through there. But I know you can do that in Elden Ring as well, but maybe one of these days Elden Ring will speak to my soul.
Yeah, maybe also, one of these days.
Take a quick note. I feel bad for girls because I am, as part of my punishment for losing Velvet's Corner weeks ago, you may notice that I have a very beautiful shade of lipstick on. So in case you didn't, now's your time. Watch the episode. This is one of the few times I'm going to tell you, watch.
Yeah.
Chris got a new mic because you guys are super cool and give us Patreon money. So Chris got a nice mic arm and mic and interface. And look, he's back up. He's also got a wand.
Yes, this is Harry Potter's wand.
And he can be more than one type of wizard.
That's a joke, for the record, that none of you get context on. Ever.
And you never will. But I want to throw it out that to keep me from ruining my lipstick or ruining my drink, I put a straw in my Baja Blast. And this is tough, man. Yeah, I don't like drinking from a can with a straw. And also, dude, lipstick's still getting all over the straw.
Oh my God, dude. Why is it getting that far down, Brett? Jesus Christ.
Look, buddy. When the Baja wants to blast, sometimes you got to take it to the base. Chris.
Okay. Yes. Hi, Brett.
I think we can probably talk about our feelings for Spider-Man 2, since they're going to have to be somewhat spoiler-free, alongside the community. So this week's Community's Take, as Chris and I said at the end of last week, if you're unfamiliar, Community's Take is where at the end of the episode, we look at something we talked about or something we think will be coming up, and we ask you guys in the community for your thoughts on it. This week's is real simple. For those who have started PlayStation's biggest game of the year in Spider-Man 2, what are your spoiler-free thoughts on it so far? And we got a lot of responses because, of course, a lot of people are playing it. And this is a really good time to announce also that one of our great listeners, So Kind, has sent in a code for us for the collector's edition of Spider-Man. So it's just a code, but we're going to do a giveaway for it. And they were kind enough to provide that. So if you're listening on podcast service, post a review. If you've posted a review, take a screenshot, send it to us at Twitter or X, previously known as Twitter, and post it there. And we will use that as confirmation of your entry. And we will give away next week, in lieu of an episode, we'll give away a copy of Spider-Man 2. So look for that. It's a great way for us to get a little bit more exposure. Hopefully it gets you guys to tell us all the nice things you love about the show on what is honestly the weirdest episode of the show. That intro is going to go down in the annals of history.
Mm-hmm. absolutely.
And I said that correctly.
I heard. You definitely did.
Yeah.
A polyp on the ass cheek of the podcast. Anyway,
right,
so how do you
Chris.
guys like Spider-Man 2?
So we got a lot of answers. The most important one is a GIF of Black Cat winking while she's holding my rod, A-Rod. And it says, this scene alone, oh my, GG. And then, you know the emoji with like the sweat face, like you can't hardly take it no more? Yeah.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, tongue out.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. I'm with them, you know. Black Cat's looking real good in this game. Real good.
She looks like, if anyone who's played it, you can tell me, she looks like Liv Tyler in this game.
A little bit.
Like exact. Like, no, I wouldn't even say a little bit. That's like
I won't say
that
exactly, but she definitely has some Liv Tyler and Lord of the Rings vibes to her.
Yeah. I see a little Anne Hathaway, a little Liv Tyler.
I'll give you a little Anne Hathaway too, but there's more Liv Tyler. Yeah, I'm with you.
There's definitely more Liv Tyler.
And Liv Tyler's beautiful. So
zero.
Yeah, that's completely lines up.
No
but
Eric
now going
Bana,
into,
but still,
I know, right? But you can't. Who else? Who is besides Eric Bana? I mean,
Edward Norton.
You're a smart man. I don't know about that one.
Yeah, you're right.
All right, guys. So we have Velvet Thunder, as you may know from Velvet's Corner fame. He says, I got the plat yesterday. By the way, Velvet, I hope you enjoy my lipstick shade. I chose it just for you. My wife put this on me, by the way. Otherwise, it would look a lot worse because I had no clue how to do this. He says, I got the plat yesterday. Absolutely incredible game. Not only is it my game of the year, but it's past the Batman games to be my favorite superhero game ever. Also, it's my favorite Spider-Man story outside of the comics, including the Spider-Verse films. Those are big, lofty words. I'm glad to hear it. I've said on the podcast a few times, I think Batman Arkham City is the pinnacle, and the Arkham trilogy as a whole is up there as the pinnacle. Maybe closely behind it, followed up is, in my opinion, Infamous 2 as one of the best superhero games of all time. So my hopes going into this, I've said, were a lot based around whether or not I feel like it can do for its world and its lore and its characters the same justice that I feel like Batman Arkham City did in expanding the world and filling it with interesting content. And I haven't played enough to be able to judge that well yet. I am enjoying most of the side content that I have played, but I've really been going for the story besides picking up like the memory. I don't want to say much. Besides some crystals and some little chests to the side, I haven't been doing a whole lot of side content. So my hope is that it gives me that feeling, and that's really a great sense of word. So, Chris, where are you at on it? I mean, I know that you actually beat the game, so we're in an inherently different spot.
I finished it about 15 minutes before the podcast started. I'm mixed. It's hard. I think the game is like an easy 9.5 out of 10. But there are some aspects on it that I'm a little mixed on. I think if we do a spoiler conversation at some point, I can get more into it. What I'll say right now is I think the pacing of the story is really not great. And I'm not talking about missions where you're not playing as Peter Parker, referencing Spider-Man 2018. I think there's a lot of cool stuff in that game that gets used very quickly. I would have liked to spend more time with certain things and see them play out. So, but gameplay immaculate. Have you? There's a new swinging mechanic, which I think is the coolest shit. Where if you're going fast enough and you swing and just hold it, you'll go in like a loop-de-loop and then shoot off. And I think it's so fucking cool.
Not there yet, but I hope I'm getting close.
It's one of the first swinging upgrades you can get. So definitely get it, because that, like, I'll go around the city just trying to do that. It just looks so sweet. So yeah. All in all, it's an improvement over 2018. I think 2018's story is better, but
curious.
It's weird.
I'm curious because I see where, first of all, I see where I think the story's going, and knowing that it can very well change. And I like where it's going. I think it's doing a great job of telling its story. But I think kind of like 2018 God of War versus Ragnarok, 2018 God of War's story is so much more personal that I think it lands better for a lot of people. And 2018 Spider-Man story is very personal. It's got a lot of interpersonal drama. And this game has kind of got the Kingdom Hearts thing going where I love it. Yeah. I am having a blast with it, but my favorite Kingdom Hearts game is ultimately still the first one because it tells its story the most effectively. It's not weighed down by anything else, and it's focused in on something. And one of the things that happens with sequels in general normally, right, is you got to go, okay, I got to make it bigger and I got to make it better. But making it bigger tends to pull away from some of the more personal aspects, and there is definitely some in here. I'm not trying to take away, and this is also my, for lack of anything more clear, I'm at the cathedral. Do with that information what you will. I don't know how far into the game I am. I can't tell you. But if you know the cathedral that I'm talking about, then hopefully that gives you some kind of thing. So this is where I'm at right now. I see where this game's growing a lot, and it reminds me of Kingdom Hearts 3, where there's a lot of characters at play and a lot of story arcs that have got to build up and a lot of character progression that we got to have happen. And it's all good, and I'm all really loving it. But at the same time, it's grown so much because of what they're trying to do that it's a little harder to tell. So I have my expectations for the game of what I hope to see, but right now it's exceeding expectations gratefully. I've been really having a good time with it, and I think that they did a lot of good stuff with traversal and utilizing the SSD to make the city more approachable with that traversal. Yeah, and I've been really impressed.
Oh yeah, that's the thing that's interesting is it's a super impressive game. It's fantastic. It's really fun. I just think it's funny that for me, I remember asking last week, I'm like, why would you even need a Spider-Man game to be longer? And now this week on this week's episode of the podcast, I can say expanding the story probably would have been it. I would have liked this game if it had 5 more hours of cutscenes. I'm going to be completely honest. I don't know what you do with those 5 hours, but yeah, I think the thing is they doubled the protagonists, they doubled the story they're telling, but they told it in the same amount of time, and I think that's where the problem comes in story-wise. But that's the thing, it's hard to criticize because I think the story is fantastic. My problem is I didn't get enough of how fantastic
you want more of the fantastic. Yeah. That's a pretty good complaint in all honesty, you know?
Yeah, and that's the thing. I don't want to go too much further into what I wish I'd seen because then at that point I'm just spoiling it. But I could have used more time with certain characters. That's all it is.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to talk about. I think a spoiler chat would be very apt for this game. It makes a lot of sense. So
absolutely,
maybe we can find time to do that next week in lieu of a normal episode. Who knows? We'll figure it out.
That would be cool.
So with that in mind, moving on to the next one, we got Gamer's Gamut. He says, I really like it so far. Somehow they made traversal even better. It feels great to be in Spider-Man's shoes. They do have you out of the Spidey suit a little more often than I thought they would, but the storytelling is pretty good, so I don't mind it too much. I noted that too, but I haven't really minded it. It was just kind of like, I didn't expect this. And I don't want to get into too much, but I think I wouldn't call it spoiler at all to say that if you've read a single review, there are MJ sections in this game.
Can I give my hottest take?
Yeah, go ahead.
Those MJ sections, the best stealth in the game.
Dude, I was about to say the MJ sections in this game, it's like they took all the complaints of the first game that like MJ's not useful enough. She doesn't have enough actual usability. And so they set a seed in Miles Morales that they could pay off in this game, and they make all of it make sense. And it works in the world. It works with the character. I was really surprised that the Far Cry level mechanics actually kind of check out. I was like, I am very impressed. And I've only done one of them so far. I don't know how many there are, but I think it's vastly improved over the first one. And I see its purpose from serving a pacing break and changing perspectives from the story perspective to help you see things in different lights and set up different perils and different, they're using it well. Yeah. I even think that the use case in this game makes more sense than the first game.
Yeah.
So I've been enjoying it. I'm very curious to see how it continues going. But let's see. We got a couple more here over on the Discord, which you can join by clicking the link down in the description below, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on podcast services. We've got Stingray X, one of our longtime listeners. He says, I'm about 2 hours in, and it already feels like a step up from its predecessor. And I'll agree because I don't want to say too much. But Chris, I think a really interesting conversation that this game will bring. We'll go much more in depth with it in the spoiler chats. But in talking to my buddy about it, this game's opening hours, like the opening hour, really, it did something that I feel like PS4 game design moved away from in an effort to look at big as something more than scale and spectacle. Mm-hmm. The first hour of this game feels like the spectacle and wonder of Kratos fighting a Titan in God of War 3 and Cole fighting the Beast in Infamous 2 wrapped together and expanded and smushed and blown out. And it feels like you're playing a top tier PS3 game design-wise in the best possible way. Because PS3, if you remember, every game on PS3 was about spectacle and size. It was like, you're going to see 1,000-foot Leviathan that you can shoot a rocket launcher at. And you're like, fuck yes, I want more. And then Kratos can rip off the thumbnail of a giant Titan while you're fighting him. And you're like, fuck yes, I want more. And I feel like PS4 kind of missed that. I can't think of a single PS4 game that was really about scale and spectacle of a single one-on-one encounter. Instead, it was about being a scale and spectacle world. Like, look how big The Witcher 3 is.
I can think of
and that's
one,
not a problem.
But it's not a PS4 game, so I don't think it counts. It's Shadow of the Colossus.
Yes, it was a remake. Yeah. So, to that end, I've been really enjoying seeing that come back because I kind of miss how bombastic gaming felt. Like, gaming felt larger than life on PS3 because that's what they were focusing on. Like, look what the hell you can do. And, it's been cool seeing that come back around because, like, they did that with Final Fantasy 16, I feel like, really well. Definitely the Titan section where everything's so big and you're just like, wow, this is massive. And it feels so crazy because everything is so obviously scoped and scaled up. And it's cool. I was really happy with the opening of this game.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. We got a couple more. We got Rude Cold, one of our patrons and longtime listeners. He says, I'm about 10 hours in. Doesn't feel like I've done a lot of the main story, though, as I've been making sure I've done all the side stuff when they have unlocked, one of which got me teary-eyed, and then he spoiler barred it. I'm not going to look in case I haven't done it. He says, it's such a fun, addictive game, but I'm surprised by the amount of story-focused walking missions there has been so far. Hopefully the action will ramp up more for the rest of the main story. I think it's safe to say it does, even from where I'm at. But yes, the beginning definitely chooses to introduce its characters in a very specific way. But I think it did it better than some of PlayStation's most recent outings, actually, while still being slow. So I'll give Insomniac their credit. Golf clap. They did a good job. So we got one more here from Josh Ayers, another longtime listener, another patron. He says, got the plat and enjoyed it. It was well worth the time. So, Chris, how much more do you want to talk about Spider-Man 2? I'll kind of leave this in your area to figure out how you want to approach it and when you want to move off of it.
I mean, I guess I don't have a ton more to say. Again, I have a ton to say, but not in this.
Well, I cede the floor to you because you've beaten it, so you may have a little bit more insight while still being able to be spoiler free than someone like me.
I mean, the best things that I can say is that it's worth your time. Here, I'll wrap it up in one sentence. Right? It's worth your time. It's worth your money. If you're not super excited or super worried about spoilers, I would wait. That's how I feel about the game.
That's interesting.
I spent $300 on this game and felt every penny was worth it. But, I was just talking to Sean today, who we'll play Baldur's Gate 3 with. And I told him, I'm like, I loved it. But knowing him and knowing that he is not like, I need to know what happens. I need to play Spider-Man 2. It was just like, I like Spider-Man 1. I'm going to play Spider-Man 2. I texted him, I'm like, I would just wait for it to be $40. It's not an insult to the game, because it's a fantastic game, but it is, I'm pretty sure, I leave my PS5 running all the time, so I can't give you an exact estimation, but it would not surprise me if I mainlined that story and I was there in about 8 hours at the end today. I think that's how long it took me. Yeah. Because the only time I played it was yesterday, taking a 3-hour break to go out with my girlfriend, and then I finished it today before the podcast after work. I did, and I mainlined the game. So I think that's the one word of caution I would put out there. If you're somebody with limited resources, if you can handle the risk of being spoiled, I would say go ahead and wait. But if you love Spider-Man, or if it's not a concern to spend the $70, absolutely day one buy. But I do think there's a little bit of wiggle room there for people who are more frugal with their gaming purchases.
Yeah, I think in this day and age, it's a reasonable thing to say, while also noting that I genuinely mean this. If the game uses its time well, which it sounds like, it sounds like it does, I never really care how long a game is. No. If you tell me one of the greatest stories I've ever seen in 4 hours, and you ask me for $70 for that, but you do it at a top tier level, I am very willing. And I know that not everyone has that ability, and not everyone has that time and all sorts of stuff. I say time, but really the time is the interesting thing. And this goes to show you how time is viewed, because I was talking to my wife. She's talking about, she does hair for a living, and she was talking about trying to debate when to work weekends because she can get people in, but then that means she doesn't get weekends alongside me, and it gets really kind of weird. So she's trying to do a better work home life balance, just like I've been trying to do a little bit better balance between my hobbies and my passions and projects like this, and being a little more involved from a dad standpoint, from a husband standpoint, from a friend standpoint. And that's good, but you have to do that thing where I told her, I was like, your time is more valuable ultimately. So I was like, you need to determine how much of your time you're willing to give for how much money. But when you transport that into games, I feel like it's interesting. I don't have a lot of time, and it really goes to show you how people look at time. Some people want things to fill their time because I guess they feel like they have so much of it that they need something to really fill it. Whereas I'm kind of like, if you can charge me the same amount of money, but give me just as much bang for my buck in a shorter time period where I have an easier time experiencing this and then being able to move on from it, I enjoy that at this point in my life. It doesn't mean I want every game to be short, but and in modern day, most games are I would say, are an average of 35 hours now.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And that's kind of long for an average of, and I'm not, that's not a bad thing. It's just, I guess I appreciate the shit out of them for being like, yeah, fuck it. If what we had was 8 to 9 or 10 hours of really good Spider-Man story, that's what we're going to give you. Fucking cool.
Yeah. And, it's a tired phrase, right? But you can't take money with you. So
exactly. Yeah.
You should value your time, and, believe it or not, going out to dinner and having a burger with mac and cheese on it. First of all, that was fucking awesome.
Dude,
I saw it.
I do that all the time.
I've never seen it. And it was just a burger with mac and cheese and bacon and then cheese sauce. And I was oh, fuck.
We didn't get to go while you were here. By the way, you need to come back down, and I need to come up to you when I know all these things.
Yes,
but we didn't get to go to Ironwood last time that you were here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we did.
No, I don't.
Ironwood is my go-to burger place.
Okay,
and they have bomb ass mac and cheese. They make it in a cup, and it's like penne noodles with this like queso sauce they have, and then they put mozzarella on top and then torch it, and it's so good. And I order that as a side with my burger, and I stack fries on top. So my burger, cooked medium, bacon, and I use Swiss and provolone cheese.
Okay.
And then I have depending on how messy I'm willing to get, usually an over hard fried egg, because over easy is delicious but messy. So anyway, you get your over hard fried egg and egg. It doesn't matter. Sometimes I do it messy. I'm willing.
Boiled egg.
Oh yeah. And then anyway, then take some of the mac and cheese and spread it across, and then just a little bit of ketchup to help the cheese kind of bind together and act as kind of like a glue. And that's like my go-to burger. It's so good.
Hell yeah, brother.
I saw your face with the ketchup. I'm a ketchup fiend, Chris.
The problem is mac and cheese does not go with ketchup. You know what else doesn't go with ketchup?
Bullshit. Hold on. We're going to have a defining moment of the show. This is going to be like a Team Edward fucking team, whatever the fucking other dude's name is.
We're doing a poll. Jacob? The fuck?
Jacob, thank you. This is going to be one of those moments, because if you're telling me that you don't think mac and cheese is... Let me scale it back for a second. You got a plate. You've got some mac and cheese. You've got some kind of meat that's good with ketchup, and you're eating it and you're going, and a little bit of ketchup touches your mac and cheese. You just don't eat that mac and cheese?
That is a willful distortion of the words that just came out of my mouth.
No, I'm not saying that's what you said. I'm asking, in that scenario, what do you do?
Yeah, you eat the mac and cheese.
Okay, I do too, and I'm like, that was cool. I like that surprise. Now let me gear towards you for a second, because I'll give you this. Do I take ketchup and squirt it into mac and cheese? Never.
Okay, well, that was what I was at. You made it sound like you said.
But on the burger,
oh god,
where mac and cheese is on it with French fries on it and meat and all the stuff that I normally put ketchup on, I do put ketchup on it, and it's delicious.
So I would just say that the time.
Hold on, Chris. I'm not done.
God. Okay.
You've opened. This is the Team Jacob and Team Edward moment. You ready?
This is how the audience knows that neither of us is on a time limit this week.
Chris, listen to me.
I'm hearing you.
What are your thoughts on grilled cheese and ketchup?
I don't have the experience to say yes or no.
Okay. As a concept, where do you land?
I mean, it's just sweeter tomato soup, so it seems like it would probably be fine.
We're on the same team, buddy.
Okay.
I love taking a grilled cheese and dipping it into ketchup and then eating it. My wife's like, why do you do that? And I said the exact same thing. Most people eat grilled cheese with tomato soup. This is basically just tomatoes with more sugar.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I guess.
And vinegar. I mean, there's a lot going on there, but.
Yeah, I mean, listen. Eat what you want to eat as long as you don't put ketchup directly on your fries. That's the only thing that I.
Oh no, yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. I thought you were saying like on the burger I do, right? But like, yeah, no, I don't put it and then try to pick the fries off. That's terrible.
Apparently, when you remember in 2016 when everyone's brain was rotted, I would make a joke with my parents that I thought anyone who put ketchup directly on the fries is a communist, and apparently. Since that day, my dad has been saying that to customers. He goes, "Oh, my son would think you're a communist," and he just fucks off.
Ooh, God. Straw got me.
That was girl.
It almost got my 19 inches of venom.
Oh, but I have 19 inches of venom back there too.
Look at that! Look at that.
The Asio venom. I'm not a wizard.
All right, Chris. I'll let you finish your original thought.
Yeah, my original thought was the time spent with her was more worth playing that little bit more of Spider-Man. So, same kind of thing. I think you focus on family, be Dom Toretto when nobody else will be Toretto. It's all about mi familia.
Be a Dom in a world full of whats. We got to come up
Rocks.
with a saying right now.
Be a Dom in a world full of Dwaynes. Highly recommend Spider-Man. I think it's weird. It's a game of the year candidate in any year except this one, and I don't even think it's top 10 this year.
That's wild. I have to see if I concur with you, but
that speaks to the year. It doesn't speak to Spider-Man.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of competition this year.
Yeah, it's hard.
There's a lot of
Baldur's Gate and Dead Space Remake and Resident Evil 4 and Lord of the Rings Gollum and Zelda Tears of the Kingdom and Kong
King
Skull
Kong.
Island. And, there's so many games that came out. Super Mario Wonder. Speaking of which, I am the greatest fantasy draft player of all time.
The greatest, Chris? I feel like you're overselling it a bit.
I missed more games than you, but I have almost every 90 that came out this year except one. So I'm taking the dub on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 90s with the potential for one more. Because I picked Super Mario Wonder. I think I said it on the last show. I'm saying it again because I'm very proud of that. That 93 boy.
Hey.
Golf clap.
I'm proud of you. My golf clap is very muted by these cheap Ash Ketchum gloves. But that's okay.
Yeah. Anyway, Brett, let's continue.
So Chris has already kind of skirted on it. So let's just start the news with the fact that a quick glance into the fact that in a year, or really in a generation, right? PS4 generation became like we're trying to show you that licensed games can be better than the licensed trash that you're used to on the PS3 and PS2. And this year has been an unfortunate pull back into the questionable quality with games that are getting really tanked, very bad reviews, nobody really suggesting that you should play them, in games like Lord of the Rings Gollum, and more recently Kong Skull Island, or whatever the name of the game was, that took a year. Now, here's the interesting thing. A lot of the goodwill that happened towards licensed games is being pushed against, unfortunately. But there's been a flip side of this that's been interesting. A lot of it comes down to how long they were given to make the game. And one of the big things around the Kong game is that they were given just a year. And most of the articles I saw were that they were given just a year. And I thought it was so funny that there was a time in our lives where a year for a game was normal. And now you see a game come out and it doesn't do well, and you go, oh, well, what went wrong? And they go, well, they only got to make it for a year. A year is a long time. Our expectations for games have just ballooned so much that nobody can make a reasonable game in a year because we all want too much.
Well, I don't think
tech
you're
is more
wrong.
Complicated. There's all sorts of things, right? The industry wants too much, and we've built the industry off the backs of they cater rather to our what we respond to, and we respond to bigger tech, bigger size scope games, more hours, higher fidelity graphics, good frame rates, all these things that are great and they're awesome. But at the same time, it means that it gets that much harder to have a barrier of entry into games. It's like at this point, it feels like your barrier of entry is like a retro style game if you want to make games. And that's the only way you can do it in a reasonable scale. And then what's funny is one of the most anticipated games that is in many ways a retro style game is fucking Hollow Knight 2. And it's been in development for 6 years. Silk Song?
Yeah, I mean, Silk Song's brutal. I agree with you.
Yeah.
But I think using
what I said
Skull
is objectively
Island,
true.
It is, but I don't think Kong's Rise, whatever the fuck that dumbass game is called. I don't think using that game as an example of, teams can't make games in a year is a great example, just because I think that game is just bad. And I think with
very
3
likely.
years of dev time, it would just be bad. So, I don't think it's really a barometer to weigh that on.
Certainly not. Yeah, certainly not. And just to throw that out, I wasn't intending for it to be. I just thought it was funny that now it's like just a year, because how long we expect games to make has ballooned. Games to be made has ballooned out so much that if someone goes, "We only had a year to make it," that's like saying, You only gave her a day to be pregnant. What is wrong with you?
Well, I think that's kind of just the way the games are going, right? Like,
yeah, unfortunately,
Rockstar has released GTA 5 on 4 consoles at this point, but they haven't.
Thankfully, they at least put out Red Dead.
Yeah, but they also made GTA 3, Vice City, San Andreas, Liberty City Stories, Vice City Stories, Chinatown Wars within 6 years. So the gaming industry has just changed so much, and I'm not going to harp on it, but I feel like the distinct anger at people working more than a tight 40 is part of what's causing that too, So
we have a really interesting question that I feel like falls in line with this, and it comes from one of our patrons, Obiraj 88. He says, will we ever see a run like we are with Insomniac right now again? Spider-Man, Miles Morales, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, and Spider-Man 2. Straight bangers. I'm not even remotely close to a trophy hunter, and I've platinumed Miles and Rift Apart, and likely will platinum Spider-Man 2. I cannot put their games down. The reason I think that this is kind of akin to this is Insomniac are an outlier in the industry right now. They're one of the only dev studios of their size that has put out games as frequently as they have and to as high a quality as they have consistently. And it's really interesting to see, because of all the studios out there working, hardly any of them can say that they've put out 4 games in 5 years.
Yeah.
And they have.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't happen anymore. I don't know. Probably not. But then again, yeah, I mean, no, probably not. But it'll probably be Insomniac who does it, I want to give them some time to see, because they're a very large team and they were all working on different things. And so, not to discredit them, but, when you have 3 teams all making a different game, it's not hard to continue shooting out games. That's not, again, that doesn't take anything away from them, but
because we can also say, do you know how big fucking Rockstar is and how many studios and teams Rockstar has, and they still put out 1 game a generation now?
Well, that's a misnomer. I actually do not agree with you.
Well, clearly
Rockstar's
that
put
was
out multiple games this generation. Rockstar North has only put out 1 game.
Clearly, I'm being slightly exaggeratory.
Oh.
I understand that, but listen. Realistically speaking, what has Rockstar put out throughout the PS4 gen besides Red Dead 2?
PS4?
I don't mean 2K. I mean...
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
PS4, you're probably right. Yeah, it's probably GTA. But GTA Online is a game in and of itself. Red Dead 2 was a PS4 game.
Well, I was going to say, Red Dead is the game they put out that gen.
Oh, yeah. I mean, good point.
It looks
in my head, GTA 5 came out that gen. I don't know.
And it came out so close to the end of the gen that I can see why you'd view it that way.
Yeah.
But still, they're okay. Let me say this much: they put out 1 game in a number of years that normally equates to a usual console cycle.
Sure. Yeah, I just think,
and it looks like we're poised to have that again with GTA 6. That's probably going to be their game of this generation.
But I mean, again, it's Rockstar.
We're 3 years in already. We're almost halfway through a gen, average
don't
gen.
Don't say that. I don't want to hear that shit. I think the thing with Rockstar is, like, we got the GTA trilogy, Red Dead Remaster, GTA 5 ported, GTA Online is still getting updated.
All of those were handled outside of their own in-house development teams.
But you're talking, that's what I'm saying. You're talking, so you're focusing in on Rockstar North, which is one of their teams.
No, I'm talking about Rockstar's teams. Rockstar Leeds didn't put shit out. We know the answer though, right? Every one of Rockstar's teams supports the 1 game.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Red Dead 2 was made by Rockstar North, supported entirely by every other Rockstar studio they had, besides the ones that keep working on Grand Theft Auto in perpetuity.
Yeah. And I think that's a
but it goes to show that number of teams does not mean number of games. Insomniac's still an outlier in the fact that they're one of the only studios that if I'm being objective and really being honest, one of the other studios that comes to mind is one that got bought, and that was Sumo Digital. Sumo Digital puts out a lot of games because they have a lot of teams making multiple projects at a time. And so you typically have 1 to 2 Sumo Digital games a year.
Look, we're getting into territory that I don't want to get into because I don't want to compare teams, but there's not a single I say this with all the love in the world for Insomniac. There's not a single Insomniac game that can touch Red Dead, that can touch GTA 5 in terms of sheer scale, in terms of sheer size, in terms of flexibility, in terms of the GTA Online. None of Insomniac's games do that. Insomniac, I would argue, is closer to what Rockstar was in the PS2 era. And we're seeing that smaller, tight games that are coming out at a rapid pace. That is not a bad thing. But I don't think you can put Rockstar and Red Dead up against Insomniac. I don't think, and Spider-Man 2, I don't think that's fair to Insomniac.
Well, no, I agree there, but also Insomniac has less teams than Rockstar does as a whole, and Rockstar still puts out less. I'm not saying that to be compared in terms other than that they're both examples of a studio with a consistent name and multiple teams within those studios where the output is drastically different. And you just clearly gave why. But It goes to show that Insomniac is such an outlier in the industry because this is uncommon in the industry. And I think PlayStation kind of knew that. And I think PlayStation saw how much they could benefit from Insomniac's thing because it plays into PlayStation's type of games really well. And so I think Insomniac was for a number of reasons outside of that, was a super easy purchase. But Insomniac is the only studio that was known for working closely with Sony even before being bought and even after being bought, that has continued the pace that they once carried. Every other studio has slowed down dramatically. Sucker Punch used to put out a game every 2 years. We are now going on year 3 since they put out their last game, and we haven't even heard of their next game.
Yeah, and I think that's a problem with PlayStation as a whole. Less about the teams.
Naughty Dog used to put out a game every 2 years. When's the last Naughty Dog game that they put out?
It was The Last of Us Remastered, and then The Last of Us Remastered.
Yeah. So and Naughty Dog does have a little bit of a window because of the remake. It kind of helps, even though the story of development around seems like they got a lot of the development and then just pushed it over the finish line. It's kind of confusing, but I'll give them where it's at. But Naughty Dog used to put out way more brand new titles than they do these days. And if you really want to look at it that way, Insomniac's put out 5 games in 5 years because Spider-Man Remastered, if we're going to count, that kind of stuff, that's a 5th game.
I would count it. It is a new
and it was
game.
a lot of work. Yeah. So
absolutely.
They are definitely an outlier. So to your question, I don't think that you're going to see this in the AAA level from anyone other than Insomniac right now. I don't see it happening anywhere else. I don't see Xbox really doing anything to lean toward this. Thinking of studios that even Microsoft has, a lot of the studios that might be able to do this type of work don't make these type of games. I think Obsidian have a really quick turnaround for the type of games that they make, but the type of games they make are not known for short dev times.
No.
So they're short on that side. They can make a game like Outer Wilds in 3-4 years when it takes Bethesda, Outer Worlds, thank you, in 3 or 4 years when it takes Bethesda 6 or 7 years to make a similar scaled game.
Or 25.
True. And of course, we mean from conception to finish. We talk about development. Development's such a weird thing because games go into full production like 2 years before they're supposed to come out, or a year and a half sometimes, depending on the game. Like Starfield has been being made for forever, but it wasn't in full production until like the last 2 years of its development.
Yeah.
Because that's just kind of how games are. It's weird. So, good question, but man, I really feel like Insomniac lately have been getting a lot of love that they were overdue on. I know we give a lot of it, but I feel like even general audiences are starting to be like, damn, Insomniac has got something going for them, which is interesting to see. And I'm curious how that goodwill will leverage them into being able to have more or less control over their destiny. We were kind of actually talking in the Discord before the episode started about what Insomniac could or could not do and how much control over their destiny do they or do they not have. And Chris, I get where you're coming from. Do you want to kind of lay out your version of that argument? Yeah,
my version of the argument is that unless Sony is truly for the developers choosing what they want and is eschewing profits, Insomniac is a marble factory. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I really don't. But I don't know the sales numbers for Ratchet off the top of my head. I don't know if you want to look that up quick. But
not super high.
Spider-Man 1 and 2, 33 million. Spider-Man 2, 2.5 million in one day. I'm sorry, that's insane. That would be like me going, you know what? I run a burger place. We sell 1,000 burgers a day. But you know what I'm going to do today? Fuck burgers. We're doing salads. Like, someone's going to like the salad, but you make your money on burgers. That's what I'm saying, right? Like, I'm sure they'll throw in the token Ratchet game, but I don't think you're gonna get quote unquote new IP from Insomniac. Spider-Man 2018 is a new IP. It's Insomniac Spider-Man. This Wolverine, new IP. Insomniac's Wolverine. They're gonna be the same kind of shit, and that's the thing. Like, I don't see why it would be such a bad thing to, hey, this Insomniac multiplayer game, that's an X-Men game. it's still varied gameplay. That's always the argument I have when I hear people talk about this. They're like, oh, I don't want to see more Marvel games. I'm like, well, Spider-Man and Moon Knight are not going to play the same way. Just like a Ghost Rider game is not going to be the same as a Runaways game or an X-Men game. You know what I mean? It wouldn't surprise me, like if we found out that the guys who did Doki Doki Literature Club are doing an X-Men game set in Xavier's school. Like, okay, you know what I mean? That is a totally feasible idea for the game. I just think that we hear Marvel and we hear superhero and you think you're getting the same shit over and over again. But I don't think that is the case. There's an argument that you could make an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. game set in this universe with what happens in Spider-Man 2, and you basically have a Resistance game. Like, you could do a ton of stuff there. There's tons of opportunity to tell stories in the universe, so I don't see it as a bad thing. But the argument is, again, Sony makes money on these games, and there is no logical reason to not make more. Unless, again, Insomniac doesn't want to. And at that point, if the next game announced from Insomniac is not Marvel, then I'm like, oh, okay, Sony really does, Xbox is power to the players or whatever, and Sony is power to the developers. That's great. That's a good thing. But I just truly don't believe a corporation is going to go, yo, you guys want to make a game that's not going to sell 2.5 million units in a day? I don't know. I don't think that happens.
So to add just a little bit of context, the last time they updated Rift Apart sales numbers, it was 1.1 million units in July of 21.
Right.
So they've not talked about it again since, which I think gives you a fairly clear indication that there's been no real strong reason to talk about it. Now, here's the more interesting thing. That's pretty well in line with almost every Ratchet game.
Yeah.
The last Ratchet game that I think was even enjoyed a 90s Metacritic score. Actually, I think the last Insomniac game that enjoyed a 90s Metacritic score was Ratchet and Clank Up Your Arsenal on PS2. So Spider-Man 2 is in really interesting hollowed ground for them because Insomniac has a long history of being just below the 90s from a review standpoint and just below breaking crazy through on sales up until Spider-Man. So I guess my part of it is like Spider-Man and then Miles Morales already proved to Sony that them making Marvel products is an easy way for them to make money, and why would they spend time on anything else development-wise? And yet Rift Apart was still greenlit. And they were working on Ratchet 2016 and Spider-Man at the same time to a degree. And I think that this is the reason Insomniac gets this kind of control. And I don't know that you're going to see it from other people. Since most of Sony's other teams are still not 3 teams, I think Sony goes, look, as long as you have one team at a time working on a big multiple $1 million game with a budget that goes alongside with that, if you want to make a side game with a decent budget that will sell 1 to 2 million, we're down. And I think it's smart because Insomniac can use that to their advantage. Insomniac can go, look, you have been working on these superhero games for a bit. You may be feeling burned out. Let's get you switched over into our B team, and let's have you working on this smaller game. And then I think that they'll have less burnout and a lot of things that are in relation to crazy dev times, because you can go, you need a break. You do need a break from this type of game. Let's throw you over here. And that even works with Wolverine, right? If you're tired of Spider-Man, like, hey, we know you've been dealing with huge open worlds and swinging through the cities and you want to change the pace. Let's get you over on Wolverine. Wolverine's going to be different. We don't know how, but Wolverine's going to be different. Like you said, the gameplay opportunities are limitless almost, as long as you're willing to put budget into them. So they're not truly limitless because you want to put budget into something that has a higher chance of making its money back. But as long as you budget accordingly, you can make almost anything, right? That's kind of the thing. Like, you can make that X-Men Doki Doki game as long as you budget accordingly.
Sounds great.
I'm actually down, but Marvel's Midnight Suns didn't do too hot.
Fucking game of the year last year.
Unfortunately.
Fantastic.
So listen, I'm with you, but I think that the ratchet of it all already being in there shows that Sony's willing to be like, yeah, we'll let you make other things. And you are a big developer for us and people love those games. So it'll sell enough to cover itself. It's PR win. And then we get the big game from you.
Well, let me ask you
I think Sony's like one big game every 5 years and we're happy,
Yeah. It's too long.
I agree, but that's also what every other studio from them is doing.
That's just like, there are actively places they could go with this where Yuri Lowenthal would not be alive if the dev cycle is 5 years. You know, it's not not feasible.
I think Spider-Man's also answered the question in another way. How do you fill in the gaps between Spider-Man games? You make small side games, reusing assets.
Yeah,
dude. I mean, Miles Morales doesn't get enough credit for how genius it is.
Mm-hmm.
Though, to throw it out, Infamous First Light was that. Infamous First Light is the Miles Morales of Infamous series.
Mm-hmm.
And Insomniac was just smart enough to be like, that's actually pretty smart. Reuse most of the assets. You, of course, have to develop out the secondary powers of this new character you're choosing to focus on. But that's so much less than making a new city and a new 10 to 12 hour storyline. If you can make a 4 to 6 hour storyline and charge less for it, and it comes out 2 years later, and then 2 years later you get another game, then suddenly you're getting the 2-year sequel cycle you used to always get. It's just every other game is smaller, tighter, more compact,
and that's
reusing
perfect.
assets.
And I think the other thing about Miles Morales that's really smart is, you know what they also needed to develop for Spider-Man 2? Miles' powers. So, hey, we've done it already, you know?
Well, Sony has a long history of that too, because like Guerrilla, the whole reason that Shadowfall got made is because they felt like they needed to make a game using the tool sets for PlayStation 4 while they were trying to work out how Horizon worked. So the whole reason that game even got made was less because they felt a real strong need to make another Killzone, and more that they were like, this is a really simple way for us to use PS4 and develop on its tool sets and learn from it so we can put that to our next game.
I mean, that's the same story with Last of Us Remastered, the first one. So they only did it to practice.
Yeah.
Which I think is cool. Yeah, I don't know. The only question I had for you, which is, again, it's unknowable, but do you think devs, like, yes, Burnout does exist and it's real, but do you think devs, and I guess strictly from a CV standpoint, are going to want to be like, yeah, I'll go work on the B game? Because I don't. Because if you look at if I looked at someone's CV, you know, me personally, and I saw Spider-Man 2, and then I looked at someone else's and I saw Ratchet and Clank, I'm probably taking the guy from Spider-Man 2. So I wonder if it's one of those things where it's like, you know, in baseball, someone could be better as a relief pitcher, but they make more money as a starting pitcher. So they're going to try their ass off to be a starter rather than a reliever, even if that's the best place for them.
Of course.
So I wonder if it's the same here, where it's like, no, I want to make Spider-Man 3 right now because that's better for me. And I'm going to give you 5 years of my life. You're not putting me on Miles Morales 2. As, again, that's a bad example because it has Spider-Man in the title. It doesn't matter. But you're not putting me on Ratchet and Clank. You know, and like, it's not an insult to Ratchet and Clank. I know people like those games. It didn't connect with me. That's fine. But I do think there's a level of, like, even for me in my job, right? Like it's interesting. There's a little inside baseball in the restaurant industry, right? For us, as if I see McDonald's manager on your resume, you're immediately hired, right? But McDonald's as just a place is not the best. You know, you're not looking the same as if you're like, oh, I worked at Gordon Ramsay's. That's obvious, but you know, you're not looking at the same stuff. And you're not looking at the same qualifications, you know? So I wonder if it's the same here, where it's like, yeah, I would really like to get off Spider-Man. I've been doing swinging tech for 15 years. But at the same time, if I have Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3 on my resume, that's a lot more impressive than Spider-Man 1. I was, you know, assistant tree designer, and then I was a gameplay lead on Ratchet and Clank, and then I was a gameplay lead on you know, Sunset Overdrive remake. You know, all of those things. I think a lot of people are willing to sacrifice their time at work for more money down the line. So I even wonder if that's an issue you're really going to see. You know, does that make sense? I know that was kind of a long diatribe, but
yeah, I get where you're going with it. Yeah. And the ultimate answer is every person differs. And I mainly used it as an example for it's an option that Insomniac and Sony have to leverage within their studio for people that they worried that they want to retain for a future project. Like maybe they're like, well, man, you know what? We're working on Wolverine, but we just got done with Spider-Man 2. It's going to be a while before Wolverine's out. We have this other game we're working on. And by the time we're done with Wolverine and get that out, this game will be kind of getting close to the end. And then we can get this developer back on this new idea that we had for this. And a lot of industries, you see it in healthcare. I do sales, so I see a lot of healthcare has the issue of maintaining talent and keeping talent at their place, and how important that is, both from a nursing standpoint, from a doctor's standpoint, everything in between. And I think you see that in every industry, including games. And so you start having this thing of like, okay, what can we do as an internal thing to try and hold on to talent, to give them options for them to leverage? And the ultimate thing is you let the developer choose their own fate, right? You get to go, listen, if you want a chance to take a break and do something creatively different and with less stress, here's a game over here. We can move you over there. You'll have all your benefits and everything. You're still working here. You get all the tenure that comes from working here forever and the respect that it commands. And then we'll move you back over here onto this big thing. And it's just a way for you to help alleviate stressors from some developers. Other developers thrive in the chaos. It's the nature of how things go. So yeah, I think you're right. I mean, some developers will purposely be like, no, we're putting all caution to the wind to make, and some of it's because of career moves, and some of it's just because people like to think that this doesn't exist. But in all industries, in all forms of entertainment, at all levels of entertainment, from startups that don't really make money to the people that make the biggest money, there are just people who will give their all to make something that they're proud of. Point blank. That's it. They don't have to get paid more. They're not, even if they are getting paid more, that wasn't their motivation. There are people that just want to make cool shit and will do everything it takes to, at the end of it, go, shit, I know that was a lot of hard work and a lot of personal sacrifice, but look how fucking cool that was.
Yeah. I completely agree.
It is the reality. And entertainment would be so much worse if those people are not allowed to flourish the way that they want to. And that's why I don't like the idea of making it impossible for someone to work overtime. If someone wants to sit at their desk for 12 hours, fucking let them. Mm-hmm. But just don't make them. That's all. Right. That's it.
Exactly.
The answer to overworking people in the industry is not to tell the people who want to go that extra mile that they can't. And people, well, that's going to make other people feel like the pressure that they have to do it. Well, then communicate, clearly tell people, if someone else stays, but that does not mean that we expect you to have to stay. We understand that you have a work life and a home life, and yet you want to be part of it. Maybe they don't. Maybe they have less. Maybe they view this more importantly. And I just, that's how most of the great art is made. Great art's made at personal sacrifice.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where I do see the argument, oh, well, I feel the pressure to stay because he's staying. But it's one of those things,
I get it too.
Anytime you make your manager happy, that's objectively better for you than somebody else. Like, that's just the way it is, Mm-hmm. If you pick, every time I call you and I'm like, hey, I need someone to work, so-and-so called out, and you come in every time, I'm going to notice that's a personal sacrifice, but that does ingratiate you with your bosses. It just depends on how much you want that. And you don't need to want that.
And you don't have to. Yeah, it's very clear with while I'm at work, to an almost bad degree, I help and do whatever they need, and it'll make me stressed and all sorts of stuff. But I am very clear with them. Mm-hmm. When I'm off, you will not hear from me. Yeah. You will not talk to me. I am not at work. I have a family, I have a wife, I have friends, I have a kid. I am not at work. And that's why people are all the time like, my company will pay for your phone. Mm-hmm. But I have a second phone and I carry two phones while I'm working. And people are like, why do you have a second phone? When I get off, guess what doesn't happen to that work phone? I don't touch that bitch. It is there. You can call it all day long. I don't give a shit. I'm not answering it. So, yeah. And that's fine. And I'm choosing to do that. I personal sacrifice during the workday. I make my workday harder where I have to cram more into it to be of value to my company. Whether or not they recognize it or not, who the fuck knows? But the point being is I'm making that choice partially because of who I am and partially because I do want the notice that comes with that. But I'm very clear afterwards, and some people are going to be that and some people aren't. There are people that gladly answer the phone from home and just want to do the extra work. I don't begrudge my coworkers who answer the phone calls from their customers at home. That's their prerogative.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. I had it recently where there's some stuff that I have to take care of and I'm not getting time. And someone said to me, they were like, well, why don't you just, come in and do it? And I was like, because I don't work for free. My check says 40 hours and you expect me to be here 50. I'm not going to be here 55. So
yeah. Well, the difference is that's one of those salary versus hourly arguments that people don't get. I'm salary too.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they pay me for 40 hours.
Right.
And actually they pay me for more. I'm not working outside of the hours I agreed upon when I started the job. And the hours I agreed upon when I started the job was 7 o'clock, 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
With an hour lunch.
I'll work whenever you want, but it's 5-0. That's it. Oh, somebody called out? Okay, so you giving me tomorrow off? No, going home. Bye. And then, that's the benefit of every career. Well, I guess I shouldn't say every career, but a lot of careers, games especially. I don't know about you, but I know that if I need to, I can find something else. So that's the way I see it. Like, I want to do the best job I can. I want to move up in any company I work for. But there's always someone hiring, especially in my industry. You know how I know? Because I'm fucking hiring. So,
yeah. All right, let's get moving on to the news. I know we've stayed here for bed. Do you have something else you want to say?
It's not about video games. We're a PlayStation podcast. We can just go.
All right, Chris. Media Molecule, the developer behind Little Big Planet and Tearaway, has seen layoffs of about 15 to 20% of its workforce. Sports Illustrated GLHF reported the news. The studio held an internal meeting in which it announced the decision internally. It's not the only studio hit with layoffs either, as the Visual Arts Group was also hit. This also comes right around the same time as David Jaffe made people pay to discover that Connie Booth was also leaving Sony. Connie, when she isn't being used to swindle money from followers, was an essential cog in the PlayStation machine, where she helped produce over 100 titles, starting with the original Crash Bandicoot. The news hasn't been commented on by any official channels, but has actually been confirmed by real news sources. It's unknown whether she left on her own accord or was fired, but it is a big shakeup, specifically all within Sony right now. But the tech industry across the board has been seeing layoffs that we saw sweep through with Meta and the problems they were having all throughout their year. We saw that continue to sweep across to things like Microsoft, and now we're seeing it finally getting to the entertainment tech part, where we're seeing games people take hits. It's not that it's surprising. It really sucks, but it kind of felt like, this was always coming. It really sucks to see Media Molecule get hit with this whenever you already deal with the fact that Dreams was not the runaway success they wanted it to be. It wasn't the runaway success that PlayStation wanted it to be. It was an interesting, creative game, and I'm glad it got made, as well as all of their games. I love them. So this sucks, but Media Molecule is ultimately a very small section of Sony. My real hope here is that Sony at least sees the value in keeping them around in some capacity and letting them work in some capacity. I would really only genuinely be incredibly disappointed if Sony shuttered the studio, which is a very real possibility, and I understand that.
I don't think it's a possibility.
It's all things are a possibility.
That studio's got, what is it, BAFTAs and...
Yeah, it does.
What is it, Shannon? Is Shannon Studd still the person I'm thinking of?
No, Siobhan Reddy.
There you go. She won. That studio can do whatever they want. They're protected just by that. But the interesting wrinkle here is a random Twitter user. I don't know. Have you seen Mr. Alex Smith's tweets recently?
I guess not.
This is a man who has absolutely no internet cachet, but has apparently worked at Bend, Deviation, and Ember Lab. And why I find this interesting is because on October 23rd, which is yesterday, he was talking about how there's going to be a bunch of layoffs in PlayStation because they're getting ready for an acquisition. Today,
now, who is this? Who is this guy's name?
Alex. It's if you're curious, it's at Alex SMITK. Now, I want to be clear. This man has 500 followers, which doesn't mean you can't have information, but I don't know who the hell he is. All I'm saying is he was a day early on the layoffs. And what I find interesting is on October 14th, he floated that Sony is about to buy Bandai Namco. Now, on the last episode, we did say this guy probably has no inside information, and acquisitions do not leak. But I do find it interesting that yesterday he was like, yeah, Sony's about to lay off a bunch of people because they're getting ready to make an acquisition. And then today, Sony laid off a bunch of people.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to see. And that really is true. When you acquire, you try to trim the fat
Absolutely
around it to help you in your, and we saw this even outside of acquisitions, right? At times where money matters, you'll see very interesting moves. We used to see, people probably don't remember this well because they didn't have a lot of it during the PS4 era. It was there during the beginning of it. But when Sony was still coming back up from a lot of hard times with both the PlayStation 3 itself, as well as a lot of problems within Sony, there was year after year after year where they were just selling off businesses. Like one year they were like, we sold Vio. We don't own Vio anymore. And then they're like, we sold off Sony Ericsson. We don't, that's not us anymore. It doesn't exist. And then they started selling off smaller things and divesting from certain things. And that's what a company does to survive. And that's what Sony did. But it's also what a company does when it's trying to make room to get capital in order to move forward with something they want to do. Because business is so shareholder driven that you have to make your company look as good as possible in order to convince people to be like, yeah, we're going to approve a shitload of money to go towards this thing. Yeah. It's really strange. And I think it's one of those interesting things where a lot of the times the board members aren't really actually privy to what people in the industry enjoy. They're just privy to the money. That's it. And that's what they want to see. They don't think about whether or not the move actually impacts any of the players or anything, even if it would impact them in a way that would cause cost to be an issue where it's like, oh, this actually could negatively impact us financially. They don't know that as well as some people. So companies do whatever they can to try and make those people, definitely a company that's becoming more and more corporate like PlayStation has and Sony has. It's interesting to see. So yeah, who knows? Take that with a grain of salt, but I mean, it's interesting to see that someone called it nonetheless.
Yeah, I don't know. What I find interesting is that he also says that Sony was originally going to be the ones to buy Activision Blizzard.
I just don't see how that's possible. I'm going to be dead honest with you.
Neither do I. But I almost wonder if they were in such dire straits. That I think it's completely acknowledged that Microsoft overpaid by a lot for them. So you almost wonder like what the price really was. But yeah, what do you think of this, of Bandai Namco and Sony? That doesn't seem like a great fit for me. I can't think of anything they have. I see one reason to do this, and one reason only. And that's because you're also acquiring from software, which means you want the Dark Souls licenses. Because I'm not trying to say this to insult Bandai Namco. I don't know. But what else do they have? I can't think of any studios that I would be excited about. I can't think of any games other than Dark Souls I would be excited about.
But not at the scale that you'd be looking at for an acquisition from a major player.
Yeah, I mean, if they paid, like, let's say this is $20 billion, like, you couldn't have spent 30 and gotten
a good example, right? If what is that company that was going around buying everyone for a while? I'm brain dead right now. Japanese company Group. Or a Chinese company rather.
Tencent.
Tencent buying Bandai Namco, total sense. Because all they're doing is acquiring a bunch of things that make money. Bandai Namco is profitable. It's the reason they stay around. So someone buying them makes sense, but only someone buying them that wants to leverage that and keep it going. PlayStation buying that doesn't immediately benefit PlayStation unless we're starting to see the seeds of people going, platforms or physical hardware is going to become... I have a feeling physical hardware will always stay around, but it will become the lesser used thing if all of the industry works out the way that they want. And as actual physical platforms go away, digital platforms matter. And one of the ways that you can continue to make really great money is to just buy things that are already profitable and let them keep working in their way while trying to grow them as much as you can within reason. So you could say that Sony buying someone like Bandai Namco would be sensible to get the big games in the way of FromSoft, and then every other game, all the anime games and whatnot, Sony already owns Crunchyroll.
Yeah, that was actually
get
kind
the
of
Naruto, get the Dragon Ball.
Is I'm looking at the games that they have and the franchises, and it would actually make a ton of sense for Sony. Sony owns Evo, Bandai Namco owns Tekken and Soul Calibur, Sony owns Crunchyroll, Dragon Ball. There's other stuff on here. I don't watch anime. But
yeah, you'd be supporting your other businesses directly.
Right, exactly. It's kind of one of those things where it's like, yeah, this makes perfect sense. I mean, One Piece,
Yeah, it doesn't make sense from okay, what are the games that PlayStation is getting out of this benefit? No, it's Sony as a whole and all of their sub things benefiting from that purchase.
And listen,
I could see it, but yeah, it's not the most obvious. But that that might make it more likely, in all honesty.
Yeah, and I was reading some of their financials. They make more money than Activision, than EA. So honestly, in terms of a pure profit move, it does make a ton of sense. The most interesting thing is this.
The thing is, they don't own most of their IP. That's what makes Bandai kind of risky. Now, they have a lot of licensed agreements with people who do own the IP, and that those would likely still carry. Very high chance. There's a good relationship there. But Bandai Namco does not actually own very many IP on their own.
No, they don't. It's like a list of like 20. But they do own the Dark Souls IP, but they don't own the Elden Ring IP.
They don't.
You know. But
they're still happy to produce that shit. You know it.
Hell fucking yeah. The most interesting one is something we've talked about here, because PSVR needs support. Bandai Namco owns Time Crisis.
And they also, if I'm not mistaken, own Ace Combat, do they not?
They do own Ace Combat.
Yeah.
So this is one of those things where it wouldn't be exciting, but it does make sense.
Yeah. Well, honestly, because Xbox has been doing such big, crazy moves, in all honesty, I think the acquisitions that are less exciting tend to go better.
Yeah, definitely.
And they tend to honestly be a more reasonable fit at a more reasonable dollar amount.
Yeah.
In all honesty, like we said, Xbox overpaid for Activision, and that's been noted everywhere. Microsoft can do that, so it doesn't really matter to them. But it matters for everyone else who is looking at them. Like, yeah, there's no way Sony would have ever ponied up that much money. And even though they vastly overpaid, let's be honest, cut $20 billion off of that. Sony's still not going to buy Activision at $40 billion. I can almost guarantee it. They can't. It's too big of a purchase for not enough immediate return for a company of Sony's size, because it would be so much risk for them to do that it would be so risky if it were to fall through. Because think about it, Activision had a deal where if the deal didn't close, Activision got like $1 billion for nothing, just for being like, you wasted our time.
Right, exactly.
You know,
just
and
to
it's like
clarify,
most companies can't risk that.
No, they can't. And to clarify my comments, Sony was not trying to buy. According to this guy, Sony was not trying to buy Activision, but they originally intended to accept the agreement and not fight it. But then Microsoft didn't want to give Sony 30% of in-game items anymore. So they were like, no, we're buying Bungie and we're fighting this to the tooth and nail. So according to this guy, again, this guy, I don't know who the hell this guy is.
Could be talking out of his ass.
Yeah.
He could be talking out of that polyp.
He definitely could.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm curious to see how all of this plays out, both from things leaving, both from acquisitions and all these things. I mean, realistically, you hope the rest of the games industry doesn't get hit, because it's weird to see layoffs at the same time as we heard years of studios being like, we can't keep people and we're needing to hire people, and then at the same time you're hearing, we just let go of a lot of people.
Yeah, right.
So, and that happens in a lot of industries. It's not really the most surprising thing. I think the last thing we have to talk about here, and then we're going to go ahead and move into the sexiest part of the show, and a question before that, but we have Spider-Man 2 has been a massive success already for Sony, now being the fastest selling PlayStation Studios title ever, selling a staggering 2.5 million copies in its first 24 hours alone, as a PS5 exclusive, mind you. 3 years in, not 5 years in, not PS4, PS5. That's impressive. Be dead honest with you. It shows you the power of Spider-Man as a standalone IP and the power of Insomniac's take on Spider-Man. It's pretty impressive.
It is.
And to Chris's argument, this is the kind of thing that could make someone go, if it stays at this kind of pace, because like you said, Miles Morales and the original Spider-Man combined selling 33 million's kind of insane.
It's nuts.
So if this game even adds half of that value back up to it, and we have a 3-game franchise that's at 45 million, that's pretty monstrous. You don't get that very often. If it does better, and we get a 3-game franchise that's at 60 million users or players or whatever purchases, that's even crazier. So let's see how this goes. I'm glad to see good reviews, fast selling. I think everything's kind of working in Insomniac's favor. It's a good year for them.
Definitely.
Sony it's a great year for Sony to be like, smart purchase. Because the purchase is just new enough still that you can be like, yeah, smart purchase. Like they've gotten their smart purchase out of Naughty Dog more times over than they needed to count. They still want it, of course, but it'd be interesting to see
what
if by this time next generation. I'm not even saying it's going to happen, but it would be very interesting to see if by this time next generation, Insomniac is thought of in the same light that Naughty Dog was throughout PS3 and PS4.
I mean, they should be already, no?
I think that they should be at least on the same level, but it'd be really interesting to see Naughty Dog slide back to a degree and Insomniac kind of become the premier PlayStation developer. Guerrilla is trying to work toward that. I don't think that they've quite hit a premier development standpoint. I think the other clear front runner right now is God of War, Sony Santa Monica. And Sony Santa Monica has always been like right on the cusp of Naughty Dog from a tech standpoint and from a game sales standpoint. Kratos is a massive IP or a massive mascot, and God of War a good IP. So it'd be interesting to see if by the end of this gen, Naughty Dog has slipped behind and we start seeing some of these other ones crawl up. Like, what if Ghost of Tsushima 2 hits and suddenly Sucker Punch is like viewed higher than Naughty Dog 2? And I'm not saying it's going to happen or that it even matters. The fact that all of them are making great games is what matters for Sony. But it would be interesting to see what the actual general feeling towards these developers becomes as you go through a series of different things. Because, like, regardless of who you are and how you feel about it, it is undeniable that The Last of Us Part 2 was more controversial than anyone would have wanted it to be. And that did impact its sales to some degree.
Here's, I think, the more interesting question. Is Sony the best publisher going right now?
Dude, I don't know. It's funny that you talk about, I was thinking the other day when talking with one of my coworkers, who is the publisher right now? And the kind of crazy part is I don't know if there's an obvious answer, but there's a few that you can kind of look at and go, maybe.
Okay. Is it Bandai Namco? After all this shit we just talked about them? But seriously, Dark Souls, Elden Ring,
Armored Core 6?
Yeah. One Piece Odyssey?
Dude, look, obviously I know people are going to have different thoughts about this because it depends on the type of games you want. So there's like a personal publisher to be, and then there's like a more broad industry publisher to be. I think the clear answer is going to be like a Rockstar or an Activision, just because all you need to be the publisher is Call of Duty or Grand Theft Auto. But if you're looking at it from more of just if you're looking more broad than a one-hit wonder thing that keeps the studio going strong and big, and you look at more variety with success, Bandai Namco doesn't sound so weird suddenly because they have a broad variety of games that had a very, dude, Elden Ring selling 30 million units for Bandai Namco is insane.
Yeah, it's
we just talked about 2 games selling 33 million for PlayStation, and we're talking about one game in much less time selling the same amount.
Yeah,
for a much smaller publisher. Yeah, that's a good community's take. Who's the publisher right now? Like, who's the publisher to be? Who's the publisher to look at? I think that's more interesting too. Like, who on the horizon should you be keeping your eye on? Like, who's the developer to keep a lookout for, or a publisher rather? I like that one.
Annapurna.
I actually don't think that's a bad answer at all. And I'm really curious to see how they keep going because they've pushed a lot this generation alone. And now they're doing some pretty interesting stuff, movies. And I think that they're trying to grow their brand significantly.
Well, isn't
it weird that they're doing a lot of that on the back of PlayStation? I think they're kind of being smart.
Mm-hmm. Well, isn't the first episode of Silent Hill like next week?
I think so. Isn't that right?
Yeah, I think that's true. Did you see what they announced today? It's not for us, it's for Switch, but they announced a Annapurna physical collection, which has Donut County,
Great
Gorogoa,
game.
Hindsight, I Am Dead, If Found, Kentucky Route Zero, Neon White, Sayonara Wild Hearts, Solar Ash, The Artful Escape, The Pathless, and What Remains of Edith Finch on one Switch cart.
But that's kind of wild. A lot of those games are small, to be fair,
Yeah.
but that's still pretty wild.
Oh, yeah. And Kentucky Route Zero, I don't know if you've played it. It's fucking sick.
I haven't, but I do know what it is.
I own it.
I know about
Play
it.
it. It's awesome.
I should.
Easy platinum, so you'll be fine.
Yeah, I like Annapurna. I think that they've done really well. And dude, Stray was like a massive success for them. They were so smart to look at Stray and go, you're going to make a game about a fucking cat? Let's go.
Yeah, absolutely.
How smart can you get?
They have,
and also Sony was smart to be like, hey, bro, can we get in on that action?
Exactly.
Yeah. It's interesting to see. I think up and coming publishers are always interesting because it's been in a weird year. It's like we've been in this weird decline where it's like Ubisoft as a publisher has been kind of declining significantly. And they've been having a lot of problems with their profits and what series were profitable and which ones continue to be. Activision has pretty much moved entirely to Call of Duty when they used to be far more diverse than they were. And so the big publishers are kind of hitting that groove of we found our Big Mac and we're just going to make Big Macs for the rest of our life. And I get it. I don't even begrudge them, but it does make me sad because it's exactly what's going to happen with Sony, and you're already seeing it in action. The bigger companies get, slowly but surely, they take less and less risk. And the best you can hope for is that a company sees the value of risk while not being so risk friendly that they go under. So that's like the kind of perfect harmony is when they're still risky enough that you get kind of crazy games. But like I told someone the other day, and I may even said it on this podcast, but I'm pretty sure I said it in person at work when I was talking to a friend. There is no world in which Sony greenlights Shadow of the Colossus today. Doesn't happen. A Definitely game like Shadow of the Colossus, they don't do it. They would never greenlight The Last Guardian right now. They just wouldn't. It doesn't make enough sense. It's not a big enough scaled game, and it's too risky. They just won't. They're not that risky anymore. They're not that creative. They're not pushing for that side anymore. They've become corporate. They've become more money focused, and they've done a very good job at that. But that has come at the cost of some of PlayStation's identity slipping because that's what happens.
Absolutely.
That's what happens with all things. Nintendo is probably the biggest example of someone who's managed to keep their identity while becoming massive. But that comes with the fact that Nintendo constantly gets shit, even from us sometimes, for doing things in sometimes the most obtuse and weird way possible. But that's the only way that they can stay Nintendo, and they're caught in a loop of all of their value comes from being Nintendo. They come from being the quirky thing that is Nintendo. That's not PlayStation's value anymore, realistically. That's not Xbox's value anymore, realistically. They help. And Sony PlayStation having an identity they can lean on helps, and Xbox having an identity they can lean on helps. But they're really third-party machines. And the secret for Nintendo is that they are still third-party machines, and they've always needed to be, and that's why most of their consoles has failed because of third-partiness. But the Switch is so successful because it's all the great that Nintendo's always offered for people that want Nintendo, plus third-party support. Best of both worlds. They Hannah Montana that shit.
Good man.
All right, Chris, we have one question I think left. Let me go double check. Oh, there's two questions. We have one from Jehudi MD, one of our longtime listeners, longtime patrons. He says, how often do you use guides when playing games you want to 100%? Do you see yourself checking guides more often for specific genres?
Brett, why don't you take it?
I think that my answer has become clear enough. Now, people are usually surprised by this, even in games like, not even for games that you can 100% necessarily. Games like RuneScape. People are like, don't you use guides to do the quest? Because one of the things that's true of RuneScape is that people who want to play RuneScape for the game, like for the gameplay aspect and this weird thing of trying to power level, they just look at a guide and play the whole quest with the guide. And all the solutions are given to them by that. And when I play RuneScape, I go, yeah, I want to struggle. I want to figure out what I'm supposed to be doing. That's fun. That's what I want to do. That's how I approach games. Chris hates it sometimes, and maybe some of you do when I bitch about having to go back and do something because I missed something because I didn't follow a guide. But you know what? I take the good, I take the bad, put it all together, facts of life. And I don't play games with guides very often. I would say if I am really liking a game and I'm getting close to platinuming it and I start to run into issues naturally coming across the things needed to 100% it, I will then pull up a guide to finish a game. If I can keep from using a guide, I'll try to. But a good example is like Need for Speed, this most recent one. All of them, really. The last 4 of them. I do as much of the map as I can clear reasonably by myself. And then whenever I suddenly can't find anymore or it's taking too long, I'll pull up a map and then I'll just cross-reference the ones I've already done and look at the rest. And I'm done. So,
nice.
What do you got?
Okay. Despite what people might think, I don't follow guides for games 99 times out of 100. I think the only time I've ever actively followed a guide was when I was trying to play Tales of Grace's F.
Oh, yeah.
And that was because I just didn't want to miss anything. But my usual thing is I'll go, and this is actually very specific. If I just want to play a game, like I didn't even look at a guide for Baldur's Gate 3. I just played it. And as I've talked about, now I'm 100 hours behind, right? If I want the platinum, but that's fine. That's not how I wanted to play the game. But like, if I'm looking at a sale, thank you. Appreciate that. If I'm looking at a sale and I'm like, I don't know about this game, I'll check the trophy guide.
Yeah.
And I think I'll do that for some big games too. Like, Dead Space Remake trophy guide. You check the roadmap and it goes missable trophies, none. Okay, cool. Fuck it. Or do I need to play this on hard? I'll check that. But other than that, like, I'm not sitting here like trophy 1, do this, and then I go do it. Like, that's not really how I play. Again, it depends. Like with Uncharted games at this point in my life, I follow a guide because if I'm playing an Uncharted game in the year of our Lord 2023, I'm trying to get the platinum. So I follow a guide so that I don't have to do 14 playthroughs to get the treasures. But for the most part, if it's a new game that I'm not playing specifically for that reason, I don't tend to check a guide.
Okay.
But I do check a roadmap to make sure I don't miss anything. Like if there happened to be, a thing that I needed to scan at the end of Horizon that I'd never be able to scan again, I tend to check the guide to make sure that I don't miss those things. That way, I don't have to come on the podcast and go, this is terrible trophy design. I personally, that's what I try and avoid and mitigate that stress for myself. But I know that most people don't play games that way, and that's okay. That's just how I tend to do.
Okay. Thanks, Chris. Very thought out answer. Yeah. By the way, put the lotion on the skin because I'm going to come cut that shit off later and wear it like a bathrobe.
Okay.
If it makes you worried, Chris, I'll tuck.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I like that.
Would you tuck me? Because I'd tuck me. All right, we got one more question that's pretty much geared at me, one of our longtime listeners and patrons. Matthew Green has said, when's Absidion making a comeback? Just been listening to Complacency. Love it. And the video, by the way. Matthew, I'll tell you something. I have 3 songs, one of which is literally done, mastered, everything. The second of which is basically done. And then the third of which is completely written, completely recorded, besides the second verse. And we've been hoping to get somebody on it. Life comes at you. You kind of move around. I often miss making music. I piddle around with it some. And that's how we've gotten to 3 songs that are in various stages. I'm so glad you liked that first EP that we put out. I love that EP. I listen to it sometimes. A lot of very personal thought processes went into those songs. I enjoy them. I am one of the people that when I create music, I like to listen to it. Some people like Rob Zombie say they never listen to their own music. And I can respect that, but I put so much of myself into music that I like listening to it. It's kind of like a check-in on where you were in that time of your life, and I think that's interesting and fun. while sometimes also sad as you deal with certain things. So I hope that it comes back soon. I've actually been talking with Casey about finishing up those 3 songs and doing all the stuff we want to do to release them, like single art, so we can get that put out there, doing some stuff worked up. So I'd say we're close, and I don't think that it's completely out of the question. And I hope to actually have that be something that maybe I can put a little more focus on in the beginning of the year. We're both dads. And we're both, buying houses, working on them, worried about family and stuff. It is what it is. But we got together at a really great time, did something that was really fun. And I'm so proud of what we made. And I'm really happy that you enjoyed it. So anyone else who wants to check out my music, at least my most recent music project, it's ABSIDEON. You can go find us on literally any streaming service. We should be on there. Got a little 6-song EP that I would love to hear your thoughts on, if that's your type. It's hard to even say what it is because it hops genres a lot. Sometimes it's super hip hoppy. Sometimes it's kind of trappy. Sometimes it's real heavy. Sometimes it's pop punk. I don't know. If any of that sounds interesting to you, give it a try. Every song, for the most part, bounces between multiple styles at multiple times. So there you go. That's your answer. Also, Chris, I don't know if you've ever noticed how big my head is. But this is the hat that I ordered this costume, right? Because my wife's going to be Misty. And it's the day before this came in. So yesterday I was sitting there looking and I'm thinking, that hat's not going to fit me. I don't wear hats. And people are like, well, you ever wear hats? My head's too big. Mm-hmm. Hats do not fit my head unless I order special hats.
Yep.
The one size fits most?
Yeah, you're not most.
I'm not most.
I'm the same way. I'm not most.
So this hat is all the way to the end to where it just won't come out. And it so I'm just going to wear it. I'm going to wear it like youngster Joey, tilted back, flipped up with my rat-a-tat.
That'd be not a bad costume. You could just wear some shorts, be like, I really like shorts.
Yeah. So it's good times though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I'm the same way.
I'm Ash. If you're looking at his body, that's laying in the coma, that's still actually aging and getting mustache and beard hair and going like the dream version he's experiencing never ages. Mm. But I'm the real body that's in the real world that his mom's like, Ash, why won't you wake up? Why won't you wake up, Ash? Yeah, that's who I am.
I think that coma. Oof. Those IV drips are doing well for you.
Those IV drips are doing real well for me, Chris. And you know why I got into the coma to begin with?
Why? Because you saw.
Because I wouldn't put the potion in the basket.
He puts the potion in the basket.
All right. So, Chris, without further ado, I think it's time to move into the sexiest segment of the show. Uh-oh. My mouse died. Okay, hold on. The sexiest section. I gotta get a new mouse, man. The sexiest segment of the show can still come. Oh. Velvet's Corner. All right, here you go. Let me not tease y'all any longer. Velvet's Corner. God. All right, guys.
Brett, you have 2 weeks to fix that fucking song.
For your birthday?
For my birthday. Okay.
Chris, what if I told you I've already done it?
I'd be
I will neither confirm nor deny if I have or haven't, but that's a fun thing for you to chew on there.
You know what I like chewing on is GTA 6 rumors. Did you see the one I just sent you in Discord?
I did, because
just made me fucking die laughing.
It's conspiracy theory.
Oh, 100%. It's just
look, guys. There's a V and then a man in the middle of the V.
Did you see the one going around where it was like the Vinewood sign, and you could just see the VI and you could see the moon, and people were doing star charts of a video game moon to see if they could figure out when the game was being announced. Turns out, wasn't announced on October 26th. Oh my God, that hasn't happened yet. Hasn't been announced as of recording.
Yeah. I must say, the 26th, we still got 2 days, but that's Thursday.
Could you imagine if they do announce it on Thursday?
Dude, here's the thing. The internet brings out the best and the worst of people, because what people are starting to do is they're starting to put Kingdom Hearts level thought process, which Kingdom Hearts actually does do a lot of really obtuse shit. But that's because the series has always done that. I don't see what Rockstar would gain by putting a moon in a specific placement with a 6 so that you can figure out the stars. Here's like, they could. Will they?
No.
Probably
they don't
not.
Need to.
First of all, you're gonna buy fucking GTA 6 anyway.
Well, that was what I was gonna
clearly.
say. They could announce it today for release tomorrow, and it would sell 10 million copies on the tomorrow. Like, it doesn't matter. So,
yeah, it would probably sell 10 million copies before the end of the day. Like the day they announced it and put up for pre-order, it would already pass 10 million
without question.
So, but that's okay. That's where the industry's at. All right, moving into the sexiest part of the show, though, we have a game from One Velvet Thunder. And this game, as we have here, is called this week's game is called The Trophy Game. Sorry, the name sucks, but I couldn't think of a good pun. So, Chris, if you can come up with anything for this, feel free to do so. Let me explain the game to you and give you a chance. There are 10 games. For each game, there's the name of a bronze, silver, gold, and platinum trophy. You get 4 points if you can guess the game from just the bronze trophy, 3 points from the silver, 2 for the gold, and 1 for the plat. When you think you know the game, you lock in the answer, and if it's wrong, you get nothing. The games are all playable on PS5, and are games I'm fairly certain at least one of you have platinumed. That's a pretty huge clue. You're playing as a team and need 20 points to win. If you lose, you must both do the entire what we've been playing section next week with a British accent. I like the challenge.
I don't even want to play.
You know what's funny is he goes, I'm trying to think of punishments that Chris would be willing to do. And then you're clearly willing to do this to the point where you're like, fuck the game. Let's
I think I've only said no to one. And I don't even think did I say no to it?
No, I think he's just saying, like, because here's the thing. I've worn my lipstick, first of all.
I'm
you've tweeted out that you thought the Callisto Protocol was your favorite game. But as of right now, neither of us have made the time to play the Callisto Protocol DLC. Just want to throw that out there.
I'll download it right now.
I got to do so too. Do you already have the DLC since you got the you got the collector's edition? Dude. It's probably cheaper to buy the collector's edition for $25 at GameStop to get the game and the and the DLC than it is to buy it on PS Store.
You're probably right.
That's sad.
Yeah.
Cool game.
It is.
Cool statue.
I do have a great name for the segment, by the way.
Okay, what is it?
Whose trophy is it anyway?
That's pretty good.
Thank you.
I like that. All right, Chris. Game 1 of Whose Trophy Is It Anyway?
Nice.
The bronze trophy is Dragon Slayer. Ooh. How many games could that be for? But I'm going to take this. Oh. Yeah. Actually. But I don't think that there's actually one called... There could be, though. Chris, we're working as a team, so I'm just going to give you my thought process.
I thought we lost.
No, we're working as a team here. All right, so you ready? Thought process. Games we've both platinumed, or most likely at least one of us has platinumed. I platinumed Skyrim. Did you?
Yes.
So Skyrim is a possible game, and it is playable on PS5. Hear me out the rest of the way, though.
Okay.
This feels, and this would be true of both games, so Skyrim is still very much in the play. God of War 2018, one of the only bosses in the game, besides the main character bosses, villains, is a dragon.
Okay.
This feels like a story trophy since it's bronze, and I think you'd get a trophy for beating that dragon. I know you get a trophy. What it's called, I can't say with absolute certainty.
What game is this you're talking about again?
God of War 2018.
Oh.
The dragon you fight outside of the mines.
Okay.
It's like the only God of War like boss fight in God of War 2018 besides the final boss. And that was actually one of the big complaints and why they worked on that in Ragnarok. So I'm with you. I think it's either Skyrim or it's God of War. If you can think of any other game, neither of us have the platinum in Demon Souls. So I don't think it's that. Neither of us have the platinum in Dark Souls 3, and there's a dragon in that, but I don't think it's that. Those are the only games I can think of where they may give you a trophy for killing a dragon. Because Demon Souls, you can kill the dragons. It's really hard to do. I did it. I don't remember getting a trophy for it. But I also don't have the platinum. So if we platinum this, the only two games I can think of would be Skyrim or God of War, unless you can think of another dragon-heavy game.
My only thought was Dragon's Dogma, but neither of us have that platinum, so
I could see that having a trophy called this, but yeah, it's not in the list of games we're likely to play.
I'm good with whatever you think, because I honestly don't.
Oh, it's kind of a spin of the die, but I'm going to lean towards this as a PlayStation podcast, so he's going to lean more PlayStation heavy. That could be a wrong choice of me, but I'm going to say this is God of War 2018.
Go for it.
All right. Boy, God of War.
Oh, nice.
4 points then.
Okay,
we're off to a good start, Chris.
Yes.
We got to get to 20, right? And then what we landed on? 20 points. That's a really good start. Okay, game number 2, Bronze Trophy. Ace the Base. Is this MLB?
No.
Ace the Base.
San Andreas. I'm like, it could be MLB, but I'm like 60% sure it's San Andreas. That's my guess.
We went pretty ballsy with the first game, choosing not to see the silver trophy. Do you think that seeing the silver trophy is going to be beneficial here? I don't have a game in mind here, unfortunately.
You can go for it.
Okay, so we're going to do silver?
Yeah, go for it.
Ooh, A Suit for All Seasons. Is this Spider-Man? Is there a ballpark in Spider-Man that you can do something with the bases? I don't remember there being a trophy for that. What you doing over there, Chris?
I'm thinking.
Chris, hands up. Ace. Okay, see, I think Ace the Base may have been meant to throw us off because it sounds so baseball heavy.
But it doesn't to me. It almost sounds like GTA 3, because remember they have that mission Bomb Da Base, part 1 and part 2.
Okay.
That's where I was going. But I said San Andreas. I honestly think you open up the gold. I don't have a good answer here. If you want to guess Spider-Man, you can. But
I Heart Manhattan.
Oh, it's Spider-Man.
This is Spider-Man.
Yeah,
Spider-Man. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
So we got 2 points.
I'll take it.
So we're at 6. That's not bad. All right, game number 3, Bronze Trophy. Back in the Mud.
What?
Back in the Mud. Back in the Mud. Racing game?
Dirt 5?
Games that at least one of us have platinum, most likely. For the most, he thinks most of them we've platinum.
I played a lot of it though, but I didn't platinum it. But I talked about it for like 2 weeks on this show.
I'll platinum Need for Speed. There are off-road tracks in Need for Speed.
Well, I didn't play that. I'm
very close to platinum in Gran Turismo, and there are dirt races, but I don't know that that's what I'd say it is. Back in the Mud. Okay, let's think through. Trophy names are always trying to be clever, so you have to it's easy to get thrown off.
Huh.
Since no game comes to mind, I'm thinking we go silver and try to get 3 points.
Hold on, can I derail for 1 second? Because this is insane.
Derail. Let's hear.
Destin Legary just tweeted out MGS Collection Volume 1. When playing MGS2, the game does not support mouse input on PC. You need to use WASD and then the U key to fire your weapon. Incredible.
Nice.
Stuff. Anyway, nice. Continue.
All right. Are you cool with going silver and trying to go for 3 points?
Go for it.
All right. Gold Rush. Wait a minute. Is this Inscription?
No. Neither of us platinumed it.
No, but we talked the hell out of that game.
Back in the... I'm going Inscription. Go Inscription. Just do it.
All right. Let's lock it in. God damn, it's Red Dead 2.
Yeah.
Neither of us platinumed that one, but we definitely played it. All right,
Yeah.
0 points on that one, Chris. Game number 4. The Perfect Storm is our bronze trophy.
The Perfect Storm.
The Perfect Storm.
Life is Strange.
I'm not against it, but it's a bronze trophy. If that was the trophy for that, I feel like that would be at least a silver or a gold for completing the
But
story.
weren't all the trophies in that game bronzes?
Were they?
I
You
thought
might
they
be right.
were, because it was it was all the story, and then it was all the pictures. I think they were all bronze. Based on the name, Life is Strange is my guess, but you can hit the next one if you'd like.
I'm going to go silver and go from there.
Okay.
Okay, silver is Teller of Tales. Teller of Tales. Is this Ghost of Tsushima? You didn't play enough of it. Unfortunately, I don't think you can be a good sounding board for me. But if I remember right, the character stories in that game are called Tales that you can run through. So you know how like a normal game, you move through your main character stories. The main characters that are going to be in the story are already in the story. But then on a lot of games, you can go off and do character specific stories, kind of like Baldur's Gate 3, where you can like go and do stuff with Karlach in mind or with Will in mind or whatever. So this game kind of has that, where there's open world and you'll meet someone in the main story and then they'll go off and then you have side missions that you can do with them. And I think they're called Tales. And maybe this is one for completing all of those, because I'm pretty sure you had to do that for the platinum. And this is a silver trophy, which seems like something that's bigger towards the end of completing something, or that could have been a gold. I can't think of a game. Teller of Tales completely throws me off of the Life is Strange. I would have agreed with you.
Yeah.
Enough with the Perfect Storm. I'm trying to think of what you'd call the Perfect Storm as a bronze trophy for Ghost of Tsushima, but Ghost of Tsushima's got a bunch of stuff going on. I think it's reasonable to call the Perfect Storm, because that can also be metaphorical, right? The perfect series of events to bring you to this conclusion. I don't really have a better game. I don't know if you do. If you have, I'm down to hear it.
I only have Life is Strange still, so go ahead.
Okay, Ghost of Tsushima. Let's go. 3 points. Ghost of Tsushima.
Good shit.
I want to see what the other trophies. The gold is Helping Sword Hand, and the plat Living Legends. I would have definitely gotten off the plat. I remember that well. I wonder if I'm right on what that trophy is, though. The Teller of Tales. Or I almost wonder, is it... no, maybe I was going to say, I wonder if it's for... That's what I was going to say. Is it all the haikus? But it seems like a collection trophy. Uh-oh. All right, next game. Game 5. Fast and Furious is the bronze trophy. Is the game
Furious?
Yeah, is the game what Chris's girlfriend says about him? That was low-hanging fruit.
I mean, she would probably say fast and emotionally unavailable.
Which makes her furious. It all comes back together.
Yep. What that tongue do? I don't have one. Fast and Furious?
Dude, I don't either. Fast and Furious. Let's go to silver. Ran the Gauntlet. Wait a minute.
GT?
No. Isn't the Gauntlet... Is
Titanfall 2.
Is this Titanfall 2?
Is it Titanfall 2? It's got to be Titanfall 2.
I don't know. I think so, because
I don't think that's what the thing's name is, though.
Is it not called the Gauntlet? What is it actually called then?
But I don't think that's what the trophy's name is called.
Oh, well, hold on. Is that trophy a silver trophy or a bronze one? Because it's Fast and Furious, the trophy. Is that Fast and Furious? Is that the name of that trophy?
No, it starts with ... Well, hold on.
Ran the Gauntlet. It's either that or like one of the Call of Duty games where you've got to do the thing at the beginning. I mean, the other game I would have thought, well, no. I mean,
hold
honestly,
on though,
the Gauntlet.
because there's 2 trophies for beating that part of the game.
One for just completing it,
and then one for the top score. But again, I think this is one of those trying to trick us with putting Gauntlet in the name.
The Gauntlet. I'm trying to think of other games that have things that you'd consider a gauntlet. You know, it's like it's a series of things that you go through.
Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare 2.
Yeah, but I don't think those are called gauntlets in those games. Though it's like the test area.
They're gauntlets. Whether they're called it is another question.
Whether they're called it, that's true. So trophy name can be really misleading here.
Yeah.
But okay.
Honestly, dude, I'm good with guessing Titanfall 2 because as much as my competitive spirit wants me to win, I think it would be really funny to do the whole show in British accents, let alone what we've been playing. So.
You know what? I'm willing to hear this out. And you have the platinum for it, so let's go.
I do not, but
I thought you did.
No,
you got that trophy, but
I got that trophy, and I haven't played it again.
All right, it's The Witcher 3.
Oof!
I don't know what the gauntlet's in reference to.
Maybe it's all the fights.
Maybe I was actually. It's funny. Earlier, I was going to say maybe an RPG. I wasn't thinking The Witcher 3, but I was thinking RPGs have got a lot of
platinum. The Witcher 3.
All right, slow down there, big dog. Game number 6, and we're woefully behind on points. Wishbone is our first trophy. Looks like we might be doing the whole section in British, isn't it?
Man, he's got the bangers and the webbings.
He's got the bangers and ass, huh? That caked up Spider-Man cover that someone made. Looks like we might be doing the whole section in British, isn't it?
Oh, bro, I've got to listen to Piers Morgan today on my way to the schoolyard.
Hello, governor.
Oi, God save the Queen. Well,
played the Tintin Liza P, did I? So we're already doing the punishment at this point. Chris, I'm going to silver.
Punishment. It's fucking funny.
Oh God, full clearance. So Wishbone and full clearance. Wait a minute.
Oh, he knows it.
I know it.
I trust you because I don't. Go.
It's this year, thankfully. I don't think I'd remember this the same way. In Dead Space Remake, you get clearance to every section of the ship, and I think Wishbone is one of the dismemberment ones.
Okay, I'm down. Go for it.
I'm saying Dead Space. I don't know if he's going to care if it's Dead Space Remake or Dead Space. I think the trophy lists are really similar.
Yeah. Well,
so let's just. Oh, okay. So if it's Dead Space instead of Dead Space Remake, are we going to count that?
Yeah, Velvet's not here.
You're not my real mom. All right, let's see if I can get 3 points here.
My dad.
Oh, actually, I haven't clicked on it yet. Is that our locked-in answer?
I don't have an answer, so
Dead Space, baby. That's what it was.
Okay.
So hold on. We're at 9 points now because we missed 2 entirely. No, wait. We got Ghost of Tsushima at 3. Spider-Man with 2 points, so 6. That was 9. So we are now at 12 or 11? Oh, 12. We got 3 points for that. So we need to do a good job next game. Never Heard It Coming as a bronze. We didn't platinum it, but what was that game that Square Enix put out? The Silent Man?
Oh, yeah. I don't remember its name now.
The Quiet Man.
The Quiet Man. Yep.
Yeah.
Didn't play it.
Never Heard It Coming. I don't have an answer for this one. Man, we need to pay more attention to the trophies that we earn.
Yeah, seriously.
I'm saying let's go silver because I'd rather get 3 points than just miss entirely. I don't have an answer either.
Go for it. I think we've already lost, so at this point we're just playing for fun.
I don't think we can definitely get it if we get the next few games. Frugalist. Wait a minute.
Frugalist?
I remember this trophy name.
I do too. Is it Hogwarts Legacy? No. The trophy,
I don't think you have.
The trophy
do you
is
have the
having
trophy?
a certain amount of money without spending.
And Never Heard It Coming, dude. Do you have a platinum in a Hitman game?
Yes. but I don't think it's that one. I've platinumed Hitman 3.
Frugalist. Why do I know that trophy name?
I know it too. I have it. It's at the top. It's at the end of my tip of my tongue.
Hold on. Follow me through a trail here. Never heard it coming.
Wait. Hold on.
I have a rough idea.
I think,
but you would be the better
Resident
person.
Evil game.
You're on the same track as me. Is it Resident Evil 4? Is the Never Heard It Coming the knife playthrough?
I don't have it. Well, Resident Evil 2 has a knife playthrough.
Oh,
and I have the platinum in Resident Evil 2 and not Resident Evil 4.
But where would Frugalist come into play on 2? Because there's not a store in 2. So what is Frugalist? Is it never spending money at the store? With the merchant?
I was thinking of the one where you have to beat Resident Evil 2 without using any healing.
Oh. I'm going to trust your gut on this because you're the Resident Evil guy.
4, but I think
that's what I was thinking.
In both games. So I think
so it's a double trophy.
Both are the right answer, but I'll go Resident Evil 4 for recency bias.
I'm going to lock you in because that's the game I was thinking anyway. Resident Evil 4, we got it.
There you go. I'll take it.
So now we're at 15 points. If we can get this.
Okay. I don't want
And then we could still just do it in a British accent because we control the show, Chris. Yeah, we opened with a skit based around Silence of the Lambs and Harry Potter mashed together. I'm pretty sure we could do whatever the fuck we want.
Silence of the Hippogriff.
Oh boy.
Wait, I'm going to derail again quick. Should I finish Fallen Order before I play Jedi Survivor? Now, keep in mind,
how much did you like Fallen Order?
Not enough to finish it.
Then no.
Okay, because I don't care. It's about Star Wars at all, but it was $20, and so I bought it. But
I think that the new one is better.
Okay.
So if you didn't like that one, if you're going to try again, at least try with the new one. There's a recap, I'm pretty sure, in the game, so you don't have to really worry about it.
Cool. All right. Yeah.
I like the first game, but
I liked it too. I just didn't finish it, and I don't want to go back at this point. So,
all right, game number 8, Master of Unlocking.
Resident Evil 2.
All the door puzzles.
Yeah. I don't know for sure, but I'm like 60% sure. Could be Skyrim. Dishonored.
Can I ask you? You may have more memory. I haven't played. Well, I don't know if you have either. When's the last time you played the original The Last of Us?
2013.
I last played it when the remaster came out, so 2014. In the remake that I do have the platinum in of that one, they brought the mechanic from 2 where there are safes in the levels that you can unlock.
Yep.
And coolly, you can unlock them by just listening and feeling the controller's vibrations and feeling the different clicks and actually approximating lock picking for a combination lock. I have the platinum in the remake, so he could be thinking about the remake. Or I don't have the platinum in 2, but you have the platinum in 2. Right?
I do have the platinum in Last of Us 2.
I'm not saying that either of those is the game, but I think they're both clear candidates. This is a bronze trophy. I feel like you'd get a bronze trophy for just unlocking, because there's not a lot of them, and if you just unlock all of them.
I'm going to say Resident Evil 2. You can go with whatever you want, but I think
I'd be more comfortable going with the silver at this point. Because I don't, it's not immediately clear, but I also see what you mean. I assume you mean for all the door puzzles, which is still unlocking, which also feels like it could be for Resident Evil 7 or 4. I'm going to go silver, because if we get 3 points here, we're still on track to win. I want to win and then still do a British accent.
I say we crush it and just go Resident Evil 2. I don't know for sure, but that feel like I know that trophy name. And here's the thing. As the Resident Evil guy, in Resident Evil 1, Barry calls Jill the master of unlocking.
You've sold me. Let's go.
Hit it.
You son of a bitch. You know what the fuck? It's The Last of Us.
Bullshit. Go fuck yourself.
I am being dead serious. And now I want to look at the other trophies.
I have to check something.
It was all just lying there. That's all I got. It can't be for nothing. Well, the plat would have definitely given it away.
Hold on.
Are you going to see if it's also a trophy?
1,000%
in Resident Evil 2?
A trophy in Resident Evil 2.
Also, it's The Last of Us. He just put The Last of Us.
It is a trophy in Resident Evil 2. I'm not going to say I deserve points, but I am right. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, see, it was on our bravado for thinking that you had it, and it was on me not. I'll be honest with you. I wasn't like completely sold on it being The Last of Us. I just didn't have another game in mind.
But we should have looked at. We would have known if we
I almost said Skyrim because of the Thieves Guild and because of the lock picking. But I was like,
that's fucked up. That I was right and got it wrong.
Do you want 1 point?
I don't want any points because I'm wrong according to Velvet's rules.
You want a British accent?
Yo, I'm looking at the bloody trophy guide, Mike. It's right there, isn't it?
Hey, Chris. Okay? Whose trophy is it anyway?
Oi, bruv. It's bloody Resident Evil 2's trophy, along with The Last of Us.
Oh, Game number 9. Are you ready? This is where we can clutch this. We can clutch this.
Sure.
Here, little piggy, is our bronze trophy.
Wow, I thought you were just being mean.
No. Here, little piggy.
Is it Let's Build a Zoo? I don't think so, but that would be funny.
I'm gonna go silver because I don't have anything.
Yeah, I don't have a single.
Silver is Strange Bedfellows.
I know that trophy name.
What's the next shit, dude, I've been touching all over my lips. I've got lipstick on my hand. Oh, it's part of my teeth. That's good.
No, it doesn't look like it. You're doing okay there.
Is this BioShock? Do you have the platinum in BioShock 1?
No, I have it on Infinite.
You have the platinum in Infinite, don't you?
I do, yeah.
I don't have the platinum in any of them. But
Go
you
to
have
the next one.
Is
I don't even have a guess.
Scavenger Hunt?
That doesn't sound right.
Huh?
That doesn't sound like a BioShock Infinite trophy. Pursuit Force?
I didn't get the platinum, so I don't really know. It's like I'm trying to think through what it would be for. Scavenger Hunt.
Well, all the collectibles.
Yeah, that's a real generic name, but a lot of games have got real generic names.
Yeah.
Here's the thing.
Ken Levine doesn't seem like a trophy guy to me.
Look, here's the thing. If we get 1 point here, we're at 15.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Or no, we're at 16. And then if we get the last game, we can win.
All right.
And then still do British accents. Let's go platinum. Okay. This has got to be Infinite. This is Platinum Columbia.
Yeah, that's Infinite.
Infinite. Yeah. Okay. So we're at 16 points. Let's really test our knowledge here. You ready? Game 10, the last game. Swath of Destruction. I know this trophy.
The Darksiders 3.
No, it's actually a relatively new game. I don't think you're going to know this.
Trials of Midgar.
No, it's a game that you did not play, or at least if you did, you played very little of. It's a game I loved and you thought I was a little crazy for loving. If I'm right. To be fair, I could be being overly confident.
Is it The Order 1886?
No. If it's what I think it is, it's Sonic Frontiers.
Yeah, I didn't play it, so.
I wish that you had, because this is the game we're supposed to clutch it on to win, and much like you, I want to win from a competitive standpoint.
Well, this is your
Will you trust me enough?
Yes, because I don't have an answer.
Let's go. Sonic Frontiers, baby! Let's go! Let's go!
The walk-off home run goes to Brett Beck. Oh, I
would have got it. I would have got it from the second trophy too. Ancient Defiance. Yeah. I would have got it.
That was a good
Weirdly
one. I like
enough,
that one.
that's the game that I weirdly know more of the trophy names for. I don't really know why, but I've been looking at platinuming it again though, so they're a little more on my mind because I've been thinking about playing the PS4 version again and getting the platinum in that one.
All right,
Chris, we won.
We did win,
and we still get to do a good British accent, isn't it?
Oh, bloody
Oh,
brilliant,
governor.
mate. It's going to be so funny because I'm going to practice for the next 2 weeks. And then I'm just going to come in with a flawless British accent.
It's going to sound like you've never been to America a day in your life.
Yeah. I'm going to sound like fucking Michael Caine. Boy, it's a Batman. That was just the Joker, but quiet.
So bad. That was so bad, Chris. I'm going to sound like Michael Caine. Batman.
Oh, he's a Batman.
I hope that's a quote in a future.
Let me sound like about a game.
You're not.
That would be a great Velvet's Corner thing, though, right? He does the game thing again, and then he brings up that quote. And technically, I've been playing the Velvet's Corner, so it counts as a game.
Gameception, as everyone says, it's not how Inception works.
Yeah, I know if he's spinning the top, he's dumb. I don't fucking know.
All right, Chris, thank you for joining me as always. Let's give these people, we want to land on what we talked about where, excuse me. What was the community take that we landed on that we thought was interesting? Damn, my brain is failing me. It must be this lipstick. It's sucking, it's sucking all of the brains out and turning into sheer beauty.
Yeah, that's where I thought you were going with that. 100%. So, hey. I don't remember.
Don't invite me to a rainbow party.
You said it in the middle of the show.
I said rainbow. I meant rainbow. RJ Burgers, shout out. I'm trying to remember. Was it about acquisitions? Was it about fastest selling? Was it about games and how long they're taking?
Yes, I think it was that.
You know what? I will listen back to it and find out and let you guys know, and then I'll post it as I usually do. So without further ado, I'm going to get off of this so we can play some Baldur's Gate 3 and I can check in on my wife and kid before they go to bed. And that is what we do with every episode. Thank you for joining us if this is your first time. Glad you stayed along through. If you enjoyed the Velvet's Corner, make sure you give Phil a shout out at any time you want. And lastly, for those of you who love us just so much and love the ridiculous intros and dumb stuff that we do, that you decide, I want to go to patreon.com/Nartech and give these fuckers $1 per month, if not more. This is what we do to thank you. And that is shout out every single one of you at the end of the episode who supports the show with more than just your time. And we're always so thankful for that. So we have Spencer, Brandon Edwards, Alex, Barry Rogers, Easton328, Aztec King, Lecheon69, The Lord Corgi, Bailey Robertson, Mark Schutz, Cypher Primus, Kyle Grimm, Rude Days 93, Kevin Bacon Bits, Danny Villalobos, Jehudi MD, No Fate, Josh Ayers, Derek Porter, Donovan Williams, Matthew Green, and Sean Sanderud. Thanks to each and every one of you, and see you next time. One. Would you catch them all? 'Cause I'd catch them all hard. You're not supposed to laugh, Chris.
It's too hard. Let's do it again. Let's retry. We can put these outtakes at the end of the show.
I was acting my heart out.
That was really good. Yeah, that was really good. Oh, wait. I need a prop.